I'm not going to sing. I'm not going to sing tonight. Thank you very much for everybody that got me to 1,000 subs, but I am going to sing on my own time, and I'm going to do something a little bit different for that. I'm not singing now. I've got Star Trek Discovery to talk about. So you right away, guys. But thank you very much for joining this latest, greatest episode of Let's Talk About Star Trek Discovery. My name is Michael, aka the TrekLad. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Here we go. Season 3, Episode 7, Unification 3. Boy, oh boy, that's a lot of numbers. Brief synopsis. Michael Burnham and the Discovery's search for answers to the burn takes them to a radically changed former member of the Federation. I wonder who that is. Yes, well, of course, it's the Romulans and the Vulcans, and this episode is highly anticipated. We're going to get into it. We've got the largest panel ever assembled for an episode of Let's Talk About Star Trek, and I really can't wait to get into it. Guys, before we get going, as I alluded to, mission accomplished. I don't know how it happened, but I have finally reached, thanks to you guys, 1,000 subs on YouTube. Thank you so much. I owe everybody a rendition of Faith of the Heart, and I am a man of my word, and I will make sure that it is delivered in good time. I just want to make sure that I don't know, get some singing tips from Russell Watson. I know he's in a jungle somewhere at the moment, and I want to make sure that it's right, because I said I'd do it, and I don't do anything by half measures. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. If you haven't already subbed, where you been? Sub, share, like, subscribe. I already said that, but thank you very much. Love you all. Right, let's get into this. Let's welcome to the show. We've got some incredible guests today. Let's, in no particular order, we have writer, TV junkie, and podcaster extraordinaire. We have Marcelo Inostroza. Hello, buddy. How you doing?
Hi, it's great to be here.
It's great to have you here. Thank you very much for joining. Next, we have Trek Central's wizard of content. His name is Dom Paris. Hello, Dom. How you doing?
Wizard? I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm just pleased that I'm a wizard now.
You are a wizard. I mean, I know that's not quite franchise friendly, but
yeah, I'll cope with it. But
cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about this episode.
I'm very much looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Next up, we have geography expert, activist, and educator, and the newly promoted Commander, Kit Rackley. Hello, Kit. How you doing?
Joel on true, everybody. My goodness, thank you for that introduction. I'm honoured.
Has to be done. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining. Next up, we have Time Lord of all things Doctor Who, a writer and YouTuber, and my new best friend. We have Phillip Hawkins. How you doing, Phillip?
I'm very good, thank you.
Well done. Thank you very much for joining. We're here. We're all here. We've still got more people to add in. Oh, my goodness. What's going on? We now have, making his Let's Talk About Star Trek Discovery debut. He's been in the chat forever. He is the legendary Scottish sci-fi fan. His name's Robbie, but you might know him better as Oh Grey Trekkie. Hey, Oh Grey Trekkie.
Hello.
Robbie, how you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm good.
It's an absolute pleasure, an honor to have you here. And last but very not least, the returning champion, Star Trek's YouTube icon. And yes, he is my acting first officer, Starfleet Babe, Sahale. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Yo, I'm doing very good. I'm just beyond cheesed, pleased, chuffed to be on your 1K episode. I'm so... like the stars aligned so that I could be here with you, and I got to give you the bridge clap.
You knew, didn't you? You orchestrated
I knew in my heart.
Thing.
I had faith of the heart.
You made this happen. Well, you all made this happen. Thank you so much. Right, before we do get into it, let's say hello to some of the people who are currently in the chat today. We have Arcanum24 from my man from South Africa. Hope you are doing well. It's going to be an interesting one for sure. We also have in the chat today the Commodore Dan Decker. He's in the chat. Tucko McTuckerpants, owner of the best name on YouTube, I think. Will he sing? No. He won't. Kit Rackley. Hey, Kit. Hope you're doing well. Kit Rackley is in the... there you go. I didn't put two and two together. Hey, Kit. How you doing? Yeah. I know. I'm. Look, my glasses are
John True.
My glasses are on my face. Andy, hope you're doing well. He's probably in here as well. Who else? Patrick Yoakley. Hello. I'm not singing, but you can continue to chant away. Thank you very much. Corey, hello. Welcome. Simon, hope you're doing well. We also have the Chassette Redemption. I see what you did there. I see you. Who else have we got? We got Burgers Hill Theatre Club. Ooh, yes, we're going to have a good chat. We've got Rashid Uzaman. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for brightening up the chat. We've got Caleb. Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining. And we've got John Blumenfeld. Hello, sir. Hope you're doing well. Stress-Free K. Thank you very much for joining. And yes, everybody else who is joining, thank you so much. Hello, Trek Cats. Yes, free cats. It's not two, it's free all the time. And finally, Matthew L. George. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Yes, I will sing. I promise at some point. Very, very soon. Right, guys. Unification Part 3. Let's get into this. Marcelo, what did you enjoy most about this latest episode of Discovery?
I love Barl episodes of Star Trek. I think that's why I love Star Trek so much. So I really love the old style feel of Unification 3, because it let Michael Burnham deal with some of those burning issues that were introduced at the beginning of the season. You know, whether she thinks that she belongs in Starfleet anymore, and her and Book finally, got down to it. So I really appreciated that. I love that because I've been shipping them since this season started, and I just loved the fact that Tilly actually doubted herself whether she could be a good first officer to Saru. Like many people, when Saru offered her the position, I was like, "What? Her?" So I'm really anxious to see if she grows into the role or she has some bumps along the way. But for the most part, I really enjoyed this episode.
Some very interesting developments in terms of our characters for sure. Dom, what were your favorite takeaways from this week's episode?
I'm going to say the world building in this episode, and I would say that about most of the episodes in season 3, because the world building that they do is excellent, and it's a shame that we only have 13 episodes in this season, because I want to spend so much time in this future. I want these smaller, contained episodes where we get to explore the political ramifications of the burn and what has been happening for the past couple of centuries. Having the Romulans and Vulcans unify and become the Nivar. I guess they're called the Nivarians. Who knows? We need that explained. But I just love all of that. And it was so nice seeing like an academic Tikal and Ket kind of thing as someone in university and doing those like we do Vivas. They're basically the same thing, and they're as terrifying as it shows in the show. So it's just beautiful. I loved it.
Robbie, what were your favourite takeaways from Unification 3?
I loved that it was just mainly a character piece. We didn't get any action. We didn't get many ship shots. It was just all a complete character piece, and I think that's what made it the most like a classic Trek episode.
It definitely had a very classic era Trek vibe to it. A lot of kind of deliberation for sure. Yeah, I enjoyed that too. Philip, obviously you've recently posted your review as well. So go and check that out as well, Philip, on Philip's channel. Philip, I'm not telling you to go and check out your own video because I know you made it. Philip, what were your favourite aspects from this week's episode?
I think I'm going to echo quite a lot of what everybody else has said. I think the character development for Burnham in this episode was probably the highlight of it. She dealt with some issues that she had been grappling with all season. She had to face some truths that were laid bare by her mum in this episode. And so there was some really good character development for Burnham. So I think that was the highlight. And then also it was just nice to see a lot of callbacks to previous bits of the franchise as well. Obviously call back to Unification Part 1 and 2, but also there were little references to things in Enterprise and to other bits of the franchise as well. So it was nice to see some sort of callbacks to there, and really sort of feels like it was celebrating the franchise as a whole as well.
I definitely got that vibe as well for sure. Commander Kit, same to you. What did you enjoy the most about this week's adventure?
Yeah, quite a lot of what has already been said. I mean, I like it best when I can make personal connections, and I felt I could make a lot of personal connections here. And I felt like it was a bit of a shout down to all fans, really, not just fans who love the new Trek, but also to say, look, we are canon, we are making these links, and not just tenuous Easter egg links, but story canon links to thread everything through, as Dom said. And personally, as also Dom said, someone who's been in academia myself, yeah, that kind of thing, the amount of times I've been roasting students in that kind of situation as well. So it was kind of nice to see that on a sci-fi futuristic level. So I quite enjoyed that.
Finishes off, Starfleet Boy. What did you love most about this week's episode?
That's the thing about going last, is like you guys all said pretty much everything that was on my mind, but I'll just top it off with something, I guess, personal. Spock was my imaginary friend when I was a kid. So for me, the thing that is my favorite thing about this episode is Spock's legacy, like seeing it on screen, in canon, if you will, or whatnot, but just seeing like the idea of Navarre existing, and like how that, like, there was so many wonderful, delightful things about Spock's legacy that like really appealed to me. And so I guess maybe the whole episode's my favorite, because the whole episode's really about Spock's legacy. So
I mean, obviously I think that you guys all know my thoughts on this episode. I've tweeted about it today. I've also got my thoughts out there. I didn't like this episode. I didn't like it. But I will explain why, and I will go into it. But that's not to say there weren't things in this episode that I liked. And I think you guys have all kind of touched on it individually. I really like what they've done with the checking back in with the Vulcans and Romulans there now in Navarre. I absolutely love that development. And I want to talk about that now. I want to talk about the unification part of Unification 3, because it's a bloody big development. This is a significant change to what we know in the Star Trek universe. The Vulcans and the Romulans are virtually synonymous with Star Trek. If you go and you have a chat with somebody in the street and you go, well, name me an alien from Star Trek, they'll probably, if they don't say Klingons, they'll say Vulcans probably. And now you have to kind of go, no, they're now the Navarrians. And they're going to go, what? What is this? So, Marcelo, in terms of the development, Unification, did it live up to your expectations? And what are your thoughts with regards to this coming and merging of these two cultures?
I for one wasn't really expecting that. I thought it was going to be a more personal story for Michael. I thought she was going to have a different issue to deal with throughout this episode. So I was really surprised that the Romulans and the Vulcans finally found common ground and basically reunited to make one sort of a people thing. So I greatly appreciated that. Also, one thing that I thought I wanted to mention at the top when you first kicked it to me, I really thought the writing in this episode was great. Kristen Beyer did a magnificent job by just taking care of everybody's story points that she wanted. I thought that she wrote the hell out of this episode. I really enjoyed that, the way that she wrote it.
Dom, with regards to the reunification, well, it's not it's the unification. So Romulans and Vulcans, they're now under one roof. Given what we saw in Picard, with the Romulans being in a very, very difficult position, are you happy with where we are now finding the Romulans now?
Yeah, I'm extremely happy. I expected that they would be unified at this point, but I expected that it would be much smoother, and that all these issues which we see boil to the surface in this episode would have already been dealt with, because 900 years. And I'm actually kind of glad that we are seeing those divisions come up, and all the different factions. You've got the Vulcan purists, you've got the Romulans who want to self-govern more, and then you've got the Romulo Vulcans, which I think is just an awesome name. But with how they are in Picard, I really like the Romulans. So seeing that they've lost their home, now they've got a new home, and I just love that.
Robbie, with regards to the kind of merging of the two cultures, I would say in this episode we didn't learn that much about, it's still kind of, it seems to me that you still have Romulans and you still have Vulcans, so maybe the Navarians isn't going to be a thing that we're going to be using anytime soon. But what did you take from that? What are your thoughts on the Unification?
I think it subverted my expectations, which is as good as living up to them. And it was really nice to see the Romulans and Vulcans in some kind of unison, living on the same planet now. And it's nice to see that they've come to terms with their problems and overcome them.
Philip, what was the biggest surprise with this development for you personally?
It kind of went sort of as I was expecting it to. Maybe similar to, I suppose, I thought maybe they might be a bit more integrated, but it kind of went along the sort of lines I thought it probably would. The only thing was I expected with the title of the episode was that it would focus more on them and that story. Whereas I think in the episode, it kind of felt like it was more of the side sort of, we got the new information and we found out about what the status quo was on it, but they didn't really delve into it as a story aspect massively, other than the bit where, the divisions start to rear their head in the meeting and everything. But I kind of was expecting, with the title of the episode, that be the main focus of the episode, rather than the focus being on Burnham. I loved the stuff with Burnham, but I did think that if they're gonna name it Unification Part 3, the focus of the main plot should have been on the Vulcans, and maybe seeing some more of that tension between the different factions.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do agree with you. And it's something that I was thinking as I was watching the episode. I think when you're going to, because it's very deliberately titled, isn't it? It's it's Unification 3. But I guess thinking about it and having seen some other things on the internet, I guess my takeaway was that it's not just the unification of the Romulans and Vulcans, it's the unification of Burnham and Discovery and other aspects as well. But no, I definitely saw that too. I was kind of hoping, to be honest, that we got a little bit more than just the kind of threatening of division during the session. Commander Kit, same to you really, kind of with regards to, talk me through your expectations for Unification. Was that met in this episode for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise, and it was actually mentioned in the chat actually, is that we didn't see the Remans. I would have expected to have seen some representation or even some mention of the Remans in this episode, but we didn't. But to kind of go on what's been said already, of course, we've got to bear in mind that geopolitics and political history is so damn complex. And you think about, the only reference we've got, of course, is ourselves as human history. And you think about all the troubles and issues we are having in 2020 with integration of cultures. And these guys are only really just started, the last 500 or so years or something. So in terms of, I think the writer Kirsten Bayer really was on a hiding to nothing here. She took on a very difficult episode here, very tricky to write, and I think she did a damn good job. But I totally agree with Phil about saying I would have expected a little bit less of the Burnham, a little bit more of the unification part of the story, to give Kirsten Bayer more of time to flesh that out and less of the Burnham. But yeah, she had to walk a very tricky tightrope there, and I personally think she did it quite well in terms of the unification story.
Yeah, definitely a lot of things to juggle around. I think in my review, some of the comments were saying, well, all the things that you want, TrekLad, I mean, you're going to end up with a 4-hour episode. I'm like, well, make a 4-hour episode then. But no, definitely good points. Starfleet Boy, with regards to your own personal thoughts on Unification, you mentioned how important Spock was to you. I want you to kind of kick us off on this, really. In terms of the use of Spock in this episode, what are your thoughts with regards to how they used him? And are you happy with Spock's legacy in the Prime timeline?
Nice, good question. I want to first say that as far as what I was expecting versus what we got, like on a previous discussion or somewhere, Dom has expressed many times what he was hoping for in this, and I pretty much mirror that. Like, I wanted to see a moment where Burnham really connected with her brother and like saw the end of his story, and I at first I was like, why didn't she look him up? But I could see how you don't want to look up someone that you know for sure has died. And so the fact that it happened in this moment where it was relevant to going to Navarre and like for her to have a mission that directly involves something that from that moment, I'm not going to get too crazy here. I'm getting excited. I keep getting excited, but what I will say is that like the episode in many ways exceeded my expectations. It kind of delivered something that I never thought of, and I love that about it. So and the other thing is, to your question about where the Remans, I think you may have just solved who caused the burn, who has the motive to blame the Vulcans on the so there you go. It's the Remans now.
Ruined. If it's the Remans, I'm gonna if it's the Remans, I'm gonna do Olivia and quit Star Trek, I think. For sure. Marcelo, I want to go around the room and get some thoughts on Spock, because he had a small presence in this episode. Well, he had a large presence. I mean, he's in the episode. We see some footage from Unifications Part 1 and 2, which I thought was a really, really lovely touch personally. But same to you, really, Marcelo, in terms of Spock's legacy in this universe now. Are you happy with what they've done?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I've never lied about my feelings about Spock. But when he came up, when Michael looked him up and started watching his message from Unifications Part 1 and 2, I lost it. I mean, there were a couple points in this episode where I was bawling my eyes out like a little nerd. So I really am happy with Spock's legacy in the Prime timeline and all that stuff. And I'm a guy that loves the Kelvin timeline, so I don't know if anybody here is going to shoot me, but I'm okay with his place in Star Trek history, per se. I love how Kristen handled his sort of cameo in this episode.
What's astonishing also, just to say, is that like the Kelvin timeline, if you're looking at it just from the perspective of like Spock's legacy, he's the connecting fact. It's the same Spock that Burnham dealt with that is in the Kelvin timeline. So it's the same character. The thread line is what connects that is Spock. It's a beautiful like thing, like structurally, I guess.
It definitely is. Dom, as the wizard over at Trek Central, obviously you're dabbling in Star Trek lore all the time. There have been some criticisms levied at the show that are trying to basically say that Burnham was responsible for everything and oh god and all that kind of stuff. Do you see that? Do you see it?
No. I would be upset if that was the case. I'm actually really banking on this Reman stuff now, because that's fascinating. We know that Remans were like dilithium miners for the Romulans, so the fact that they could have, made all dilithium inert is like crazy. But no, yeah, I definitely don't want it to be Michael related. I'm fine with it being Michael's the one who solves it, because in this episode we get a very like nice psychoanalyzing mother scene. She puts herself in places of importance to fulfill the orphaned childhood she had. So yeah, I don't want the burn to be caused by Michael.
Well, time will tell. Time will tell. We will definitely see. There are definitely a lot of theories flying around at the moment, and I mean, I want to keep the whole conversation a little bit loose today. For that reason, Earl Grey, Robbie. I'm going to chuck a question at you. So many theories at the moment. What theory do you have with regards to the cause of the burn? Who's behind it?
I try not theorize of it. It's a surprise and I'm excited, but I would hope that it wasn't deliberate and that it was a complete accident. I have no clue who would have done it or if it was even intended. I don't know. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Sometimes I kind of wish that I didn't theorize on these things because, yeah, again, the surprise would be there and the entertainment factor would be ramped up. I guess I'm going to pass that on to you, Philip, as someone that makes lots of theory videos. What are your theories with regards to the cause of the burn?
My main theory at the moment is that there isn't a person or a group that deliberately caused it, but that it is sort of that they're trying to maybe make some kind of message about sort of climate change or something like that, because there's been several things this season so far that sort of kind of fit with that. There was that line in this episode about the fact that the Federation had stretched itself too far and was overusing resources, and that's why dilithium was scarce to start with, even before the burn. There's the stuff with the whales, the space, the whales the book is saving as well. So there's a kind of ecological sort of side that they're setting up with that as well. So I kind of feel like they might be going down a line of a message where it's the actions of the people of the universe, not one specific race, but maybe all of the races of the galaxy that have caused this to happen, and that they might need to change their ways in order to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Kit, as someone who cares deeply about the environment, I mean, you educate on environmental concerns. I mean, is that something? Is Philip's theory something that you subscribe to?
Well, I mean, Philip's just extrapolating really from the whole, what Star Trek does with current affairs. So absolutely, I'll tell you what, I'm no longer in the classroom now, but if I was, I would be freaking using Star Trek for these environmental analogies. I can tell you that. I've even used Thunderbirds in lessons before. So yeah, hell, I use Star Trek in it. But there's definitely been an environmental undertone.
I want to be your student. You sound like a cool teacher.
Bless you. We could organise that maybe one day. But I absolutely, I can. Well, I don't know that. Climate change. I don't want to talk shop on when I'm trying to be geeking out here, but climate change is such a polarizing political issue as it is, and I'm not quite sure the writers are going to go down that explicit route to where everyone's going to say, oh, that now they're virtue signaling about climate change, for example. I don't think they're going to go down that route, but it is certainly an interesting theory there, Phil. I think I wouldn't be far off the mark, I think, but we'll see. We'll see. I
do think Star Trek's always liked to tell these kind of stories, but definitely with the contemporary Star Trek productions, as they do try to kind of have a finger on the pulse of society and current, social political issues. And I really wouldn't be surprised if they do it. I do think, though, that there is going to be some sort of secret, big, bad organization that's controlling it. Probably Section 31, but I'm sounding very cynical. So I'm going to turn my attention to you, Starfleet boy. And I want you to kick us off with let's talk about Burnham. Burnham was a huge part of this episode. Burnham's messianic complex, very, very deep character development and character study with Burnham this week. What were your thoughts with regards to where we found Burnham at the start of this episode and the events that got her to the conclusion?
This whole season, Burnham's been troubling me. I've been really annoyed with Burnham, and I'm usually not. I really like the character. And this episode released that trouble, I think, because finally here, she told the truth. Like, it was kind of that's what I figured out, that's what's been troubling me about Burnham the whole time, is that I didn't think the character was being truthful to herself. And that's what the source of all that was. So I loved that at the end of this episode, she realized she's where she needs to be. She has found her place. Like, you can be both things, as her mother says. Like, you can live in two truths, and that's okay because they're your truths. So that whole thing I loved it. I just think that, like, to quote your video from earlier, and a lot of people are making this sort of like call out, is that there has been a lot of crying and emotion this year. And so maybe now that she's released this, hopefully she and the people she influences, the crew, will also release that kind of feeling, and we can get a little bit more, kind of past this kind of thing that's been bogging, I think, all of them down.
I would this is emo Trek headquarters. We're gonna have tears. We're gonna have tears and science every single week. And I to a degree I don't mind it, but I don't know, every week. I think I had a point there earlier. Marcelo, Burnham, talk to me about Burnham. What are your thoughts with regards to Burnham's journey this week?
Well, first of all, to back up Starfleet Boy's point, I have been really pleased with Burnham this season. The lack of her, trusting her crewmates and going off and doing basically adventures by herself really ticks me off. So the fact that she finally, to back up Starfleet Boy's point here, the fact that she finally was honest with herself and finally opened herself up a little bit, I thought that was great. As a matter of fact, I think that Michael Burton hasn't been better. Like, this is the best I've seen her handled in the show so far. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, or the rest of the panel does, but for me, her character development in this episode was top notch, and I loved it.
Dom, I saw a lot of nodding there. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I agree. I just love, as well with what some people have said, I wasn't that big a fan of Burnham in this season so far, but this episode really brought it to a point where I can understand where they were going in the earlier episodes and be like, okay, I do like that arc. I think if I then go back and watch those episodes, knowing where it culminates, I think I'll enjoy Burnham much more. So it will be definitely interesting to go and rewatch those episodes and see how I feel about it now.
Robbie, Burnham has been through a lot, not just in Discovery, but in this season alone. And we're only 7 episodes in, with her ever evolving, changing relationships with not only people on Discovery, but people off Discovery, her placement on the ship, her placement within Starfleet, her placement just in general in the universe. It's been very erratic. She's been all over the place. She's shown so many emotions, and it's almost like she's not been in one place for 1 minute. Do you think, following the events that we've seen here in Unification 3, things might calm down, or do you think that the chaos will always be following Burnham wherever she goes?
I think she's on her way to recovery, and she's been a bit confused, and she's been trying to do what she thinks is right all the time, and going against Saru because she thinks there's some better objective and there's something that she feels she needs to do. And I understand why she went against Saru's orders to get Book and Scavengers, but overall she hasn't been a very good officer. And I hope that in this episode she's truly come to terms with that's wrong and she shouldn't be doing it. And it's good that she's flawed and she's not doing everything perfectly and she's following her heart, but she needs to just restrain it and make her peace with Saru.
She doesn't seem like a bit of a. She doesn't seem like a Mary Sue to me. Doesn't seem like a Mary Sue to me at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Anyway, Philip, talk to me about Burnham fitting into the status quo, into the Discovery crew. She's kind of accepted her place in the new chain of command, and we're definitely going to get onto that for sure. How does the show progress with Discovery, with Burnham in this new position?
Well, I don't know, because of the thing with her mum in the trial and everything. She seemed to resolve a lot of issues that I thought were going to play out a lot longer throughout the season. I've been saying in my own videos since the beginning that they seem to be setting up a very conflicted Burnham and how she deals with different situations. And it seemed like they were setting up, and they've done this in a couple of episodes where they've kind of had I've described it as an angel and the devil on her shoulder. You've got Saru on the one hand and then Jojo on the other. And I thought that was quite an interesting dynamic. And they were so that she'd be in the middle and they would kind of be pulling her in two different directions in terms of what she should do. But I don't know how this, we'll have to wait and see how this affects it going on from here, because certainly how the episode ended, it felt like she'd resolved some of those issues. So I don't know if that's going to still be an ongoing thing. I thought it was quite interesting while it was happening, though, and I just kind of felt like it hadn't quite played out as much as it could have done. So there's a part of me that wishes this had come slightly later in the season, maybe a couple of episodes' time.
Okay, that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because that was going to be my question to Kit. Do you think that they potentially have pulled the trigger a little bit too fast on this happening? Because last episode, she takes off the badge. There's a very kind of, quite a visual, really, showing almost resignation from her current situation. Was this next episode the events in this episode logical, to use the word for a second, or would you have liked to have seen the events be elongated and pushed back to the latter episodes?
I'm conflicted by this. That's a great question. Some people might have said it's been dragging out already. I've seen that before. I've seen people say that. Some people are also saying that the use of her mother in this episode is a very convenient plot device. However, that aside, I don't think so. I thought it was a nice touch, but that aside,
it was conveniently wonderful.
Well, but that was a huge emotional shock to Burnham. So she's in the episode, so we have to accept that. And that was a huge emotional shock to Burnham. That can fast track any character development when you've got such an emotional shock to just that, And I think that the writing was and the fact that she was a member of the of that, and she practices absolute candor and things like that. It really did kind of fast track Burnham's development, in my opinion. So I can see three answers to your questions there, Michael, but I think it worked for me.
What I want to do is I wasn't going to touch on the subject of Burnham's mum, but what I want to do is I want to ask the whole room at the same time, and I want thumbs up, thumbs down, or thumbs in the middle. What were your thoughts with the thumbs on the use of Burnham's mum as the quad Milat in this episode? I am absolutely outvoted here. 2 thumbs up from Dom. Probably the most convenient thing in the universe, but it's okay. It's happened. Nothing.
It's convenient, but it was used well. Yeah, it was kind of convenient that she showed up, and that stretched the credibility a little bit. But after that, I think they used it well.
I guess. I mean, the one thing that I also had, and I didn't mention this in my review, is a parent's love sometimes goes beyond duties and the organization that you're bound to, and I guess I was very surprised by how savage Burnham's mum was. Probably not at the right time as well, when she was trying to get her hands on something very, very valuable. But anyway,
she's the ultimate helicopter mom.
I tell you what, I would. I'm glad she's not my mum. That's. I'm just putting it like that. Right. From one acting first officer to another Starfleet boy. Talk to me about one ensign Sylvia Tilly and Saru's decision to make her acting first officer. Did you see it coming?
No, I was super surprised that I was predicting Nielsen. She was my favorite in the running for it, so I was completely surprised by that. And I think that if I have to give this episode a critique, I would knock this plot point, not for anything being wrong about it, just for the timing. I agree with someone earlier said, being Unification 3 is a big deal. Like, the episode should have been pretty focused on Unification 3. So I think I could have digested Tilly and the weird, they're even calling it weird in the episode, the weirdness of this decision. I could have digested it better if I had it in a later episode, because this episode, all I wanted was the unification, like the Vulcans, the Romulans, the Spock, the burn. Those are the only things I wanted from this episode.
Well, Marcelo, then on that same subject, and we're going around the room, we want to talk about Ensign Sylvia Tilly. Marcelo, what did you think about Tilly's promotion? And do you agree with Starfleet Boy that you would have preferred it if perhaps this was pushed to another episode?
No, first of all, unlike Starfleet Boy, I had no idea who I wanted to replace Burnham, but I didn't see it coming. And I have a question for the room, if I just may, for just a second here. You all seem to be saying that, for the most part, that you wanted this to focus on the unification part, more than you wanted the story to steer away from Burnham a little bit. So I'm interested, how would the panel go about doing that? I'm sorry for taking over your question.
No, I mean, thanks, but we will get back to Sylvia Tilly. Who wants to answer that?
I'll just say really quickly that I think they could have extended the Saru president scenes. They could have extended the Burnham and Mother scenes, and they could have. There's just other areas. There were so many different kind of things going on in this episode that I don't think the episode would have been hurt by Tilly being shrunk even further. So we could get more of the strange new future of Vulcan and the Romulan stuff.
I think there just needed to be more of the potential rifts between the different factions, and I think there's different ways you could explore that. But I know TrekLad, on your review, you said you wanted to see something down on the actual planet itself, and I think that would have been great, because a big part of the unification, I don't know if anybody else did, I hadn't watched it in about 20 years, so I went back and watched them ahead of this, and big part of that two-parter is seeing how just like the regular people on the surface of the planet are embracing these new ideas and things. And we didn't get any of that in this episode. So it would have been nice to go down there, just see how the regular people on the planet, not these formal officials, have dealt with the coming together of the two races.
Yeah, can I interject there? I totally agree with Phil. I mean, there are some aspects which could be explained by one line. I think the Quat Malat being, because of absolute candor, being a part of the Vulcan scientific interrogation, totally makes sense. That bit of Romulan culture being integrated into Vulcan totally makes sense. But totally agree with you, Phil. I made a list before. I was expecting references maybe to Ditan. I was hoping there would be references maybe to Vice Proconsul Moret, and to be made some way somehow as well, to thread back a little bit more to those older stories. But yeah, maybe my bias is through geography and stuff, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the a bit more of a DS9 style kind of way of interrogating the way that the planet has now evolved.
I guess it's always quite difficult because they only had 50 minutes to tell this story. And I guess with the fact that we have seen extended episodes in this season alone, I guess when I saw the episode was only 50 minutes, I was a tad disappointed. You could have done a 90-minute episode here, and you could have inserted extensions of Tarina and Saru, and you could have shown some footage on the planet, and you could have kind of bulked up a little bit more of the unification aspect. The unification aspect did leave me, I was disappointed with the fact that we didn't get as much as we did. But this is ultimately Burnham's story, and we have to be at peace with that because we're watching Star Trek Discovery. So Marcelo, is your question satisfied, sir?
Yeah, but I must be insane here because I was completely satisfied with what I got. I guess you guys must be more trekkers than I am, because I was completely satisfied with what I got. And by the way, I love Sylvia Tilly, so it will be a pleasure to see if she falls on her face trying to adapt to this new role, or she actually becomes a more strong and positive person through the fact that she has to be basically Saru's second in command here. I'm really interested to see how that plays out for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And on that subject, Dom, with regards to Sylvia's kind of rise, I mean, when we first met her, she had literally just joined the Discovery. She was fresh out the Academy cadet. She was still in training. And now she is the XO on arguably the most important ship in the quadrant. How do you think she's going to cope with this challenge?
Well, I actually think that she is going to cope better than we expect. We've seen a lot in this season, especially I think last episode, that like Saru says, she's probably coped the best at adapting to this new future, and you see her giving orders to certain people in the Spore Drive section. So it seems like she already has I would say a deputy department head role of that department. Because a lot of the complaints about this is, she has no experience managing a department at the bare minimum. But I headcanon that, and it makes sense to me. And also hearing in your review about reminding myself about Kirk in the Kelvin universe, going straight from fresh new cadet all the way to captain.
Yeah, that didn't wind anybody up. That didn't wind anybody up, did it?
But I feel like
he was over Kirk at that point. He'd already mind melded with Spock. No, I'm just kidding.
I enjoy that.
I feel like either Saru isn't making a good choice, or he's seeing something which us as the audience refuse to see, we always remember Tilly as this silly ensign who makes a couple of jokes and is scared to hurt Pike in the very first introduction. But she has proven herself to be extremely competent, and I think my opinion on this will change dependent on how they deal with it in the next couple of episodes.
Robbie, what are your thoughts on Tilly becoming the first officer on Discovery? Are you in agreement with what you've heard so far?
I think it's quite a jump from ensign to first officer, even if it's just acting first officer. And although I like Tilly, I think she's wonderful. I don't promote the notion that Saru is having. I just don't think it's... I mean, it could develop her well, and it could show that she's way more capable than we think, and she probably is, but I would just have maybe put someone more experienced like Culber as first officer.
Philip, at some point midway through the episode, Stamets reacted, I think, how most of us reacted when we first heard. And I think it's my favorite GIF from this episode. Was that your reaction? And do you think that this challenge is something that Tilly is going to rise to?
Yeah, Stamets' reaction, for initial reaction, wasn't particularly helpful to Tilly's anxiety, was it? It definitely come across as he made up for it later on. But yeah, I was shocked. It was a surprise. I honestly, I don't think I have any strong feelings either way. I was surprised. It's not, but then again, it's not the first time we've seen an ensign be made XO. It happened in Lower Decks. In an episode, so it's not the first time this has happened, and of course the infamous Kirk to captain, of course, as well. But yeah, I don't really have any majorly strong feelings either way. I'm willing to wait and see what they do with it. I don't instantly go, no, that can't happen, but equally I don't instantly love it either. I kind of just am a bit okay. Let's see where it goes.
Kit, when I saw this, I really didn't have a problem with it at all. And you know, for the same reasons as Cadet Kirk to Captain Kirk of the Enterprise. But I also saw it as potentially being something that can help inspire young people in our real world today. And as a former teacher, that's obviously a job that you've had in inspiring and enriching, you know, the next generation. There we go. I used it. But do you think Saru made the right choice here? And do you think that his intentions are good?
Kudos for you for keeping the tie-ins here. Yeah, I do. I mean, I was someone who was an advocate of student voice and youth leadership. I used to get kids to run lessons and things like that. So from that respect, absolutely. And of course, I think there's one key factor a lot of people are forgetting here. She's been given the title of acting XO. You know, so this probably might not be a permanent thing. So Saru might be thinking that this is kind of a test for Tilly because she is part of the command training program. This could be just to see how she gets on. And I think that, you know, Saru has made questionable decisions, but I don't mind that at all because of, you know, he's going through the same trials and tribulations and stresses and strains, and he's a brand new captain himself, a freaking good one, but he's a brand new captain. So he's going to make a few mistakes, and a lot of those mistakes have been in decisions to do with people he's close to. But I'm happy with this decision. I was expecting it to be Lieutenant Nielsen, but I'm completely satisfied with this, and I like to think how Tilly gets on, and I think she's going to do a great job and surprise a lot of people.
Starfleet Boy, what we've seen in Discovery in the past is it's a show that's not afraid to show internal strife and, you know, complex relationships. I mean, we saw it when Tilly told Stamets, and he did the whole. You know, so we've seen it in the episode. But do you think that Tilly's new position on the ship could, down the line, cause conflicts? Do you see it happening in the immediate future, or do you think it's just something that the crew's going to get behind right off the bat?
I have a tough time in general seeing where this story will go, and also I have a lack of interest in it. I do love Tilly as a character, but ultimately, like the EXO acting EXO thing is not as interesting as some of the other stuff that's going on. And I think her character personally would have been better served with a different story. Maybe something that led to a promotion. I almost kind of, maybe because I love Tilly so much is why I'm so mad at it. Like, I think like it would have been nice if he was like, you're my EXO and your lieutenant. Like there were so many opportunities in my mind. And I guess I'm letting it interfere with my enjoyment of what ultimately, you're right, is a great moment for Tilly as a character. And as far as the crew following her and like feeling comfortable with it, I think I'm hoping this is like a 2-episode thing, and then someone said that Burnham's going to get re-promoted back to EXO after doing something marvelous, which is likely. So, it'll be a 2-episode thing, and then, we'll all have something to bond over and cry about, and that's it. Like I'm hoping that it just kind of goes away, and then Tilly goes on a proper path to captaincy, because she was awesome as Captain Killy. And the whole idea of like, someone was also mentioning that she went to the academy with Kirk and they would be peers, no pun intended there, but like, like it was cool to imagine that Tilly would one day be a captain at the same time as Kirk and part of the fleet and things like that. So I do want that for her. I just not a fan of how it's happening.
So I think it's safe to say then, Starfleet Boy, that this would probably be the aspect of the episode that you would potentially change or remove and save for another time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I would definitely do that.
Marcelo, same kind of question to you. Is there anything in this episode that you would alter and change to improve the quality?
I find that I'm the most easiest person to please on today's panel, because I really enjoyed this episode for the most part. Like I said, the only thing that really shocked me and made me go, what? Is the thing we've been talking about, Tilly being promoted to first officer. I'm like, what are you thinking? It should have been Culver, right? So I, as a writer myself, I would have played with that a little bit. I don't know if I was writing this episode instead of Kristen, I would have gone with Culver over Tilly, and I would have done something. I would have done something else with Tilly, like Starfleet Boy suggested. I would have promoted her slowly up to the rank of captain eventually, but I don't want Michael to earn her strike back as first officer so quickly. I don't want her to basically get all the power in the next how many episodes we have left. I want her to earn it, right? Because I feel that she's been given a lot of things based on who she is, which is the main character of the series. But I don't think she's really earned anything yet.
Interesting.
You guys probably think I'm insane, right?
No, not. I mean, you're insane for giving this episode high marks.
There's a lot. There's a lot of evidence.
Dom.
There's a lot of evidence to support that she does come from a place of high rank and privilege. I mean, she went to the Vulcan Science Academy. Her foster parent was Sarek. I mean, like, she's already famous in the world that they're in. So yeah, I agree with that Michael does kind of have this privileged air about her.
Dom, what would you change about this episode if you could change anything?
I would change the location of where they did the Tikal and Ket. It was recently revealed in one of the Star Trek logs, which is a thing on Instagram where they post like personal logs of some of the crew. If you haven't seen that, go check it out, because there's some weird things like Linus having a crush on Giorgio. Yep, it happened. But Jet Reno, more Jet Reno, that'd be great. But Jet Reno talks about how the Discovery now has a holodeck. I think this would have been the perfect episode to be like, hey, the Discovery has a holodeck, and then you have the Discovery crew walking in, then you refit holodeck and like, what the hell is this? It changes. It's different than our combat simulator. That's crazy. And then to have it in a place like maybe the Forge from Enterprise, this old like Age of Surak place on Vulcan, where they can do this academic hazing, whatever you want to call it. I think that would have been great. And maybe just some scenes on the planet, like we said before, just seeing how unification has affected everyday life with the civilians. I would especially love to see how the architecture has changed. I'm quite a architecture person. So, you know, it'd be very nice to just see architecture. I like architecture.
I want architecture too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Romulans had really like circular cities. Vulcans had really like spire cities. So it'd be cool seeing those like interact. That'd be great. But yeah.
And what
It's
what
sort
I
of
would,
like they've merged the symbols from their chests. They've
Yes,
merged those.
yep.
So, yeah.
what I would have done, just to really piss off the people that hate Kelvin universe, is I would have just recycled the footage from Star Trek 2009, the Vulcan scenes, and I would have just used that. I mean, budget. If you need to save budget, just reuse that, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would have done. Robbie, is there anything in this episode that you would change? Is there anything that you didn't like so much that you would get rid of?
I think I agree with you that we would see a lot more of a planet, and although I like the idea of using the holodeck as a setting for this kind of ceremony, I would have had it actually set on Navarre. I don't know, in a cave or in some kind of Vulcan tribunal building.
Bring back
just
the Star Trek cave. Bring back that classic cave, right? There you go.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It's in a storage cupboard somewhere. Bring that set out. I love that old set. Philip, what is there anything that you would change? Is there anything that hasn't been touched on that you would like to have changed with regards to this episode?
It's very similar. I think, yeah, we need some time on the planet. And I think one way of doing this that would also help, you know, integrate more of, make it more feel like Unification Part 3 would have been that you could keep all the stuff with Burnham. You could keep all of the sort of the presentation and everything, but have it take place on Vulcan. Navarre. Sorry, not Vulcan. Have it take place on Navarre, and then that would give the opportunity for there to be, like, when there's a recess, to have some scenes of them going out into a local town, interacting with the local population, and then maybe that could have led partly to Burnham's realization that, you know, that she can't put the unity that is there at risk because she sees it in she sees it in action, and then that might have, you know, played into her storyline as well. So you don't have to sacrifice Burnham's storyline to get more of a feeling of unification. You can merge the two a lot more than there was, and I think going down to the planet would have been a good way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're pretty much unanimous with going down to the planet. Kit, is there anything else that you would add with regards to ways to enhance this episode?
Yeah, Phil, spot on. That's a fantastic suggestion. Yeah, the only thing that irked me, and for me personally, it didn't bother me at all, but giving fuel to the toxic fans fire was when Gabrielle was quoting the president saying how much of the man Spock became was a result of who his sister was, you know, and I didn't mind that at all, but I can imagine the toxic fans jumping on that thing. Oh, now you're saying Burnham is responsible for everything Spock's done.
She is.
So,
She is.
so as I said, I
like
personally don't mind that at all.
I was speaking to the
I personally didn't mind that scene. I thought that was a lovely scene. That's just kind of, I just now going to be dealing with those fans now anyway. But no, I echo what Phil and Dom in particular have been saying about the planet. That would be the one thing for me.
Yeah, toxic fans. Whatever the show does, we're just going to have people that don't like anything. So I mean, we just have to get on with these things. But
sorry for bringing it up.
No. It's all good here. Look, we are pressed for time. Starfleet Boy, help wrap us up here. Surmise your feelings of this latest episode. Give it a star rating or a Starfleet Delta rating out of 5, Starfleet Boy. And where can you be found on the internet? What's coming up for you tonight?
Well, this is the pre-game kickoff to TQIF, which is something that happens, and I'll talk more about it after I surmise my feelings. But you can go to Text Trek next, and at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, very late for anyone across the pond there, so you might want to watch it on the replay. And then Starfleet Boy After Dark comes later on. So that's what's going on with me. But I guess to summarize, I think of this episode as kind of like a gift to me personally, as a lover of the character of Spock. So it's hard for me to like really be objective fully. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like one of those things. So what I guess what I'll say is that despite the critiques that I have for this episode, the problems that I have for this episode, I was so delighted by what we did get that I still feel like this is a kind of watch again over and over. Oh my gosh, like when I want to think of like Spock's story as a whole and I want to start watching like key episodes in that story, this is for sure going to finish that, you know, box set, if you will, off every time, because it gave me enough of what I want in terms of that. Yes, I would have liked an hour and a half episode just solely on the subject, but I did, you know, but am I going to like fault a show that has a 50-minute format already and has to, you know, one day air on television and has all these things? No. Am I gonna like really get mad that Tilly got promoted in this episode, taking away from my precious moments, you know, instead of later? No, I'm not, you know. So ultimately the Tilly thing is so insignificant to me that it doesn't hinder or ruin the rest of the experience of this episode. So that's my final thought.
And a Starfleet Delta rating, sir.
Oh yes, I give this a solid 5. Actually, make it 11 out of 5 Delta shields and IDIC symbols and everything else.
my EXO, like Burnham, is an overachiever. Overachiever. Breaks the rules. Breaks the rules. Love you, Starfleet boy. Shut up. Right, Marcelo. Same to you. Summary and Starfleet Delta rating, and where can you be found on the internet, sir?
Yeah. Well, let me just, if you guys want to come and chat with me about Star Trek or anything science fiction, the best place to find me is at Twitter, hashtag CreekFanatic88. Starfleet Boy, you already follow me, so you don't need to find me anywhere. Thanks for following, by the way. But I thought this episode did a great job of building the character of Burnham and making her come to peace with the fact that she does belong in Starfleet. And I like the fact that Tilly got promoted, although I didn't completely agree with it, as I've already said. And if I was to give this episode a Delta rating, I would have given it 4 out of 5 Deltas. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Dom, same to you. Summary, Starfleet Delta rating, and what are you currently working on with those wonderful people at Trek Central?
Wonderful people. I'll tell them you said that. Yeah, so this episode, I just loved what it created in this sandbox of new Trek, of this new future, which we find at Trek in. I want so many stories now, not only of what's happening on Navarre after the Discovery leaves, but I want to know what's happened the last 900 years. You know, how did the Quatmillat help them talk stuff out? How did the Romulans eventually come to the planet? I want book series, maybe a short trek, all this stuff. I love this episode. To begin with, I didn't like the Tilly situation, but upon rewatches, upon talking to other people, listening to other people's opinions, I like it. I just don't like that it was in this episode, because I feel, and I've experienced, that it takes away from the conversations you can have about this episode. A lot of people are going to just go in with, oh, how do you feel about Tilly? Instead of, oh, how did you feel about all this Romulan Vulcan stuff? Because that's cool. That's not a fault of the episode. It's more a fault of like how people talk about the episode, I guess. But, you know, it's still something that the episode does. So from a rating point, I'm going to give it the warp speed of the Voyager, which is 9.975, because it's near perfect.
What does that look as a Starfleet Delta?
Who knows? You can decide.
And only 5 of them.
There's 10 warp ratings, so yeah.
Amazing. And what are the guys at Trek Central currently up to?
We've got our weekly live streams on Sundays at 9 p.m. GMT, where we'll be talking with a special guest about this episode. We'll talk about this episode again for an hour, which, you know, I'm looking forward to that. And then you can find our review of this episode over at Trek Central YouTube. We cover news and all these new episodes and furry videos whenever we can get around to them. So yeah, check us out there.
Amazing.
I love you guys, by the way. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dom. Robbie, Earl Grey Trekkie, same to you. Surmise your feelings. Give it a Starfleet Delta rating out of 5. And where can you be found on the internet, sir?
I loved although we've been seeing that all the characters, they've not fully adjusted to the new time period that they're in. I loved seeing just the characters be fleshed out. We get a bit of their headspace, and we get to see the characters try and overmount their problems and come to terms with what they're dealing with and try and move on. And this whole season has been like that, and it's been great. It's really been brilliant, and it has a wonderful theme of mental health woven throughout it. And I loved the messages and the themes of this episode. It had a lot to say. I would give this 4 out of 5 Vulcaneers.
Vulcaneers. There definitely is there's a lot of mutiny against the rating system, John. Yeah, absolutely. Philip, I'm hoping that you might help me out here. Surmise your thoughts, feelings, and a Starfleet Delta rating out of 5. Give it a rating. And what are you currently working on that great YouTube channel that you have? And he's on mute.
Always on mute.
Yeah. Did you do that? No.
Sorry, I muted myself to cough earlier and I forgot to unmute. The biggest takeaway from this was that it wasn't the episode I was expecting. Because of the title, it wasn't the episode I was expecting. But on the whole, it was still a very good episode. I have some criticisms of some parts of it, but on the whole, we got some great character development for Burnham in the trial bits, and especially with her interaction with her mum as well. I thought that was some good stuff there. And I really like the direction they've taken the Vulcans and the Romulans. I just wish we had seen more of it, especially given the episode title. It didn't continue enough of the themes and the story of that first 2 parts of Unification for me. So I just kind of think it was a good episode. I just kind of wish it was called something else. And then they could have given us all this information, but it's a marketing thing, isn't it?
Unification 2.5 might have been a better title.
Unification 2.5. Yeah, possibly. So I think I would give this 3 deltas out of 5. There you go. Gave you your deltas. In terms of where you can find me on the internet, my YouTube channel is just my name, so Phillip Hawkins, and mostly I'm doing weekly reviews of Star Trek whenever it's on. I'm also a big Doctor Who fan, so do a lot of Doctor Who content on my channel. And currently, I'm got a series I'm calling the Time Lord Victorious Canon Update, because there's this big multi-platform Doctor Who event going on at the moment across various media, and it's quite tricky to. There's so much of it. Oh, I love the sonic screwdriver. Brilliant. There's a lot of it. So I've got a series that's basically trying to explain how it all all the different things interact with each other. And that's a weekly series. So I've got that going on. And then I do cover other pop culture as well that I like. Like, I've recorded a video, but I haven't edited it yet, where I'm unboxing a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Red Ranger helmet, because I loved Power Rangers as a kid.
Hurry up and edit that. I want to see it, and I'm sure I'm not alone there. Awesome. Well, Philip, thank you so much for joining. Kit, finish us off. Final thoughts. Delta Shield rating out of 5, and where can you be found on the internet?
I so wanted to be the Pink Ranger when I was growing up. So, yes, I could be found at Jog Ramblings on YouTube, Twitter, and on Facebook. And in the spirit of absolute candor, the choice of Tilly is a shock, but I did shed a tear or two that this built up the legacy of Spock. The universe building intrigued me, so did Navarre Cultural War. And there's multiple throwbacks to Trek and So. Of 5 Delta Shields, I
Is
give
that
4.
right? Okay, Kit wins. Starfleet Boy, you are demoted. It's now acting first officer Kit. Thank you so much. Guys, you have been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for
I
joining.
concede.
Thank you so much for joining, everybody. Marcelo, Dom, Earl Grey, Robbie, Philip, acting first officer Kit, and Starfleet Babe. Thank you so much for joining. We will hopefully see you again very, very soon. You guys are absolute legends. And to you, thank you so much for joining us for this week's latest episode. Let's talk about Star Trek Discovery. God, wow. How do I say what I feel without being a downer? Well, just go and check out my review. My thoughts are on my YouTube channel. Go and check it out. I did give this episode 2 Starfleet Deltas out of 5. I am a harsh critic. I know. The episode, I think I'm going to enjoy it on a rewatch. I think that a lot of the guys in the chat had some incredible things to say, and I think I can go and watch this and potentially enjoy it a little bit more. There are still some things I didn't enjoy, though. The contrivances, the resolution. It's something that we didn't even talk about. It's the fact that Burnham concedes in her mission and basically just admits failure, which is fine because you can fail, but then just gets the data anyway, and it just kind of bothered me, really. But the biggest thing for me is I really wanted the episode to live up to its title, Unification. I wanted more Romulans, more Vulcans, rather than just 3 on a ship in a room. And when people kind of go, but they don't have the budget for it. Well, I don't agree. It's a massively higher budget show than we've had in the past, and you could have done it. And I'm, instead of taking us to the scavenger planet last week, take us to Navarre. I want to see Navarre. Still, Discovery continues to impress and is, I'm having a lot of fun, even with the weaker episodes with Discovery. So season 3 is really exceeding my expectations at the moment. Thank you so much for joining, everybody, in the live chat, everybody watching this on replay, to my wonderful guests who have joined me this week. And we will be back. I'll be back doing a live stream very soon because I need to sing this Faith of the Heart, which I will be doing. Again, thank you so much for getting me to 1,000. I love you all tremendously. If you haven't already, like this live stream, subscribe to the channel for more weekly content coming at you. We will be back next Friday, 9 p.m. GMT, 4 in the East. Come and join us, and as we chat more about Star Trek. Until then, stay happy, stay safe, and live long and prosper.